somewhat puzzling, and there goes the Rumble as well. It seems like Rumble, Skarner are the two that people have been really looking out for, and despite slight nerf to the Ashe, we've seen that she is still extraordinarily strong.
I don't hate the Skarner ban, because I do feel like you want to give Perfect maybe a little bit more agency, given that he has looked like one of the better performing players on your team. And I do think that the Skarner does push you in a little bit of a direction when it comes to your draft, whereas the Ashe, it's a flex pick. It's both an insane AD carry as well as an insane support. It does mean that the very obvious Corki is going to come out here. Normally what we see is paired this with a jungle pick, but instead Hayes is going to get some priority. He's earned it given his level and Lahenza's level of performance thus far in the tournament. As that I love that one too. So
is this KT drafting well? What? I'm not used to this. What's going on? Isn't this the summer season of 2024? Surely not.
That's a really strong opener.
I am very worried about the Yone pick because B2D did kind of look tragic on it last time around. Though.
He did.
We have to caveat.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't want to get excited about the performance, but the draft thus far.
Yeah.
So you have the Lilia shouldn't come as a surprise. Wonder if it's going to be like the Brand. I do think Brand with Leona specifically is quite strong. So very solid combo. Alternatively, I'm like double checking, but Talia is also still open, which the reason why I'm triple checking is
what the ZYRA jungle.
Oh,
there we go.
Lock it in.
I love it. Thank you very much, Canyon.
Man,
my favorite champions, and she's going to be coming out of the jungle. I believe she was nerfed a little bit prior to the LCK starting. She was kind of terrorizing the jungle before that.
Yeah.
But still pretty strong.
This is a debacle for lore as well, because you have her favorite champion versus her favorite team. That's a tough one. As we look, the Maokai support would make a lot of sense. We saw the Poppy support really come up as a top-tier pick as well. But Barrel's just showcasing what a champion pool he has. It's going to be the Seraphine instead.
Was it Quanmong Freaks that played it into KT when they played it last week?
And then KT also ran it back, and then they weren't able to make it work. That was when Leaper played Jhin.
Yep.
So that was the second game, because the first game it was used by the bot lane of Kwang, who obviously have been doing exceptional. So I want to highlight, I really like this draft here from KT. The only thing that I'd be a little worried about is Keen going for a counter pick, but Keen identifies that they have Zeri, they have Corki, they have ZYRA. Additional front line is definitely going to be the big thing here. And I also like the Jax, because one of the things you could look towards, even though it's been nerfed, is the TF, and can't pick that into the Jax. So I love this draw from KT. You have a really strong top side, double melee with Sejuani, you have great engage, you have great follow-up on the dive as well. So I do think that all of that looks good. The downside is that you are playing, and I think specifically the combination of ZYRA as well as Cassante can make it really hard to actually find a target and blow them up in the
See whether KT can do it again. So we jump into the rift for game one. Alright, Genji fans in full voice. KT fans also definitely not quiet here as Deft. Dude, the guy next to you has a skin for that. Oh, but they're like the synergy towards the bottom side of the map actually much better with those two skins. So I appreciate it. Not using Barrel's skin just so they could look a little bit more coordinated. Love that. I think they need all the help they can get in that department as well.
Oh, Canyon going for the Comet. So this is a new tech for the ZYRA. I'm personally a pretty big fan. I think that Dark Harvest, we've seen that rune in competitive specifically just not have that much impact. First Strike, obviously, is also great, but First Strike did get nerfed on this patch.
Doesn't even get impatient, as immediately Deft has to use his cleanse. Canyon is from killing these camps into a great flash to get himself out of the way of the Zenith play, but still has to use the flash. Oh dear, there's the flash grasping roots. Deft able to walk out of it, but he still has to walk in the wrong direction, and first blood goes to FaZe. That is about as bad as it could have gone for KT, but best possible scenario for Gen G. Against Showmaker. Is looking a little bit better now. But it's a Cork. He doesn't exactly, although I guess he does have more lane presence now, and True he always has. But still, Canyon moving on over, Keen going to help him out. And as I say, the B2D's having a fine time. He goes down to 200 health or something like that. And it's going to get slowed up. Trovy moving in, Deft in the area as well, as I think Pioshik going to have to get out of here. Yeah. And it's going to be able to push him away. Canyon moving on down. He'll take the leash.
And it's another example of how powerful clear speed is. Because what happened there was Canyon walks top, takes 2 grubs, then sees that the dragon is being taken. Because KT is like, hey, if Canyon's top, which they spotted and go there, then we can trade for a bot side dragon.
Plan's coming down as Keen going in. There's the all out onto Perfect, who does press the Grandmaster's might, but I don't know whether it's necessarily going to work. He's trying to wait, trying to get out. And Keen, he's all out, but he's not going to be able to catch up. And that is not going to be any sort of solo kill. Both flashes now down as Canyon. Oh, BDD. He is going to be able to make it somewhere out of this. Almost goes down to that last rocket.
Makes his way out. This wave is going to crash. It's going to be more plates going over, but they do get, as you point out, the grubs. It's going to be 3 against 3. This dragon, though, is looking like it's 100% going to go towards Gen.G. I don't know if KT is really going to be in a position to try and contest for this, given that we see Death Barrel still making the way towards the bot side of the map. And I expect that Hayes and Canyon will be able to get through quickly. Instead, though, it looks like they're just going to get the first turret blood and put even more gold into these carries as, Canyon and Hayes, they are...
Yeah. But instead just going for max damage, will be able to cut through anyone that walks up to them. But that does mean that the dragon does go over to KT, so they're evening that score. Certainly good news. And that is a Chemtech Soul. Ox is here today. When I was on to ride a bike, I got hit by a parked car. There's an ulti from BDD. Chovy going to be able to flash out of there, but still has to invest it. Kushik comes in and doesn't find the Glacial Prison. They were really hoping that they'd be able to at least get a kill there, because there is a lot of bleeding to stem here.
And it's a little bit tough to watch, because I like what KT is doing. They're continuously going for these plays, right? Deft is firing arrows. Pioshik's trying to set something up. Perfect was able to, withstand the pressure of Keen in that lane. But then the play doesn't work. They don't get the kill.
The rest, yeah.
Atlas, this is a safe space to discuss emotions that you have regarding one of your favorite.
Mainly the Pyro. It's all right. Deft going to have to give up this turret. Absolutely. As Pioshik rotating around, you can see Lehans. He really wanted to find that Zenith blade, but doesn't get an opportunity just yet. As Roterald is going to fall down. Keen getting kited. That is a decent encore onto 3. Perfect into the backline. Finds his counter-strike on everyone. Strangle Thorns is there defensively, but BDD finds the ulti at KT. They managed to manufacture a team fight, and it has not looked better outside of that part there where Keen manages to kill Perfect. Chovy trying to go 1v4. That ain't going to work. And Deft is going to kill his ex-teammate. KT, they needed that.
It's the wombo combo that dreams are made of, Atlas! KT in the mid lane! The chain there!
Does show that KT can actually perform well together.
I thought that was going to be a bigger dent.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a blip. You just need a bit of super glue and you'll be absolutely fine with that one. I don't think Gen.G are really too worried. They're also going to be able to grab their second dragon of the game. That will very, very quickly go down. Chemtech Soul, not going to be the...
I think the KT comp is still...
I know, it's cool. It's a cool comp. How is it so one-sided?
No, I think it also skills well. Outside of specifically the ability to get on top of Pace, that's like the one thing where I feel like realistically...
He's going to try his hand at hitting some abilities. Doesn't have that Rylai's completed just yet. As the turret just gets,
for that, as we can see there.
Certainly feels a little bit better as BDD going to teleport his way in. Keen just being that front line as they set up the Soul Point.
Perfect.
I think that KT wants to find this angle. Once again, it is that flank that Perfect has set up for himself. Gen.G going to get spotted as the Scryer's Bloom comes in. Extendo Beam onto Beryl. He is pretty squishy. They will start off this dragon once again. There's the flash forward. Flash out from Beryl, though, as Pace immediately cleanses the Glacial Prison. And Deft feeling pretty safe at this point in time. Finds the arrow onto Canyon. There's the knock-up, but the Strangle Thorns has gone down. It's Perfect that gets Pace out of the fight, though, and there is the kill onto Canyon that he finally finds. This time, though, Pace is still alive, and Keen just slices him up and gets out of there. Deft wanting to get a bit of damage back as there's the counter-strike from Perfect. The arrows are raining through, though, and Perfect just wanting to find a Pace. Getting kited, and Deft finds the 1v1 at the end. It's a teleport to bring Keen back in, though. And I don't know whether Deft wants to go for that particular 1v1 as well. At least this time he'll be able to walk his way out. as my goodness, how does KT manage to find these team fights? This is this is the time in the Matrix where they're like, he's beginning to believe. Because now finally, they're about to, get closed in on in a fight, and they just say, we win these.
Oh.
And they did, as Beryl very excited about the situation. As once again, perfect on a flank angle. Genji, full information. Goshik getting down low. Deft trying to find these volleys as Perfect gets into that backline. Another Stranglethorn's used on just the Jax, but it may work out here as it's a decent knockback. They take down the top laner, and Keen is absorbing so much BDD. He finds both carries in the backline, and Pace is wiped out. This time, though, they managed to get Deft, and I think that Genji have enough damage left available, and Pyoshik and Beryl will not be able to do it. Pyoshik will at least have the last laugh as he's the one that decides his fate. But Beryl is walking the wrong direction, and Lehens is just going to let him go. They don't want to waste their time because they just want to take this Baron.
Here we see the problem for KT. Even though Perfect, man, I'm betting KT's very happy that that guy is back.
Oh,
Finds a great flank. BDD gets the carries. The problem for KT is that Genji, you might look at this and go, they have 3 very strong carries. But the reality is they have 4. Because Keen on his Cassante, just able to, feels like that fight might end up deciding the game. As the Rebel Baron power play for Genji, I'm sure, is going to be massive.
I would say so as well. And I think that it's really cool that KT kept it interesting for those couple of team fights.
Yep.
But this is what it's been looking like we're heading towards most of the game. As Genji, they managed to take the first neutral, they'll take the second one as well, as that is Soul Point for the Chemtech Soul that they pick up there. And Chovy splitting on this bottom side. Deft here to catch the wave, so at least Chovy's not going to be able to take this one just yet. Laying down the groundwork, getting all of this vision set up. And it just feels like such an uphill battle for KT. This whole game is what it's sort of led to, and I think it all just comes from Canyon and his ability to pilot this ZYRA kind of exactly how it needed to be this game. Genji still looking for a bit of an angle here, and they're just KT taking too much damage underneath this turret. Beryl going to be shielding them up, trying to do what he can to keep them healthy, but all the while, Keen not there. He's on the top side, putting that extra pressure down, and there are too many holes in the ship and not enough plugs.
KT, I think in this series looked a lot better. Even in the DK series, which was closer, like the fights have looked better than they've looked all summer. And I know we're in week 2, but still, that's something to look towards. That's something to give them credit for. But they're gonna have to find a similar level of insane combo. And I think you start to see Genji adapt as well, in that I feel like they're a lot more aware of the threat of that ultimate, in that they don't just pile up behind us.
Well, there it is! BDD finds all of them with that ulti. They do manage to at least get the kill on the Yone, and I think maybe the wallets are a bit too heavy, because look at that, the double from the grave for Canyon, as he then just finds himself a forbidden book from the library. Very, very cute stuff. Is okay, Perfect and Beryl, the last man standing, and I thought that that was going to be it. That was the Wombo combo. That was the sick play. KT find a team fight. Now, it's just the ZYRA presses her buttons before she dies.
Effectively reworked like 1.5 times, and Chovy is still just topping the damage charts.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a tough task with Canyon here on this ZYRA that has been very, very strong throughout this whole game. It all just comes back to Corki and Chovy in particular.
Yeah, can't believe.
Just, knocking down all of these turrets. It's now 7-2.
To find an even better angle. I just don't know if it's there.
Well, Solar Flare is going to slow down Deft, as now they do find an encore. We'll see whether that's it. It's just not. Beryl explodes like a balloon, and at least King gets knocked up, but he's just not taking damage. He dives in, gets the all-out onto Pyoshik. Flash out from Deft, but his health bar is just too low. And Chovy is going to push Perfect out of there. They keep everyone alive, and Genji, I think this is the push for the end here in game number 1.
See if they actually take down the Nexus, or if they decide, well,
yeah, never mind.
KT's had swings up, and there's a new side quest.
Yeah. Would have been really cool. You know, there's quests in the game. That's a thing. There's precedent there.
I know.
All right, speaking of which, this is going to be the second one that did just spawn at the same time as the dragon. The Baron
like the cool,
is now the next thing.
Rengar Kazakh's one that everyone knows about.
I do like that one.
It's so unfair. Getting a fourth evolve is not okay.
I know. Very, very silly. And Rengar's cool item thing is now gone, so this doesn't even really work that well. The same way that it used to anyway is, okay, Keen, just being that brick wall. This Baron is just falling down lower and lower. They do a bit of damage here to Keen to start this one up, and the Baron is now going to lose interest in the
Look
fight.
at the base! Look at the base!
The Winions are getting the work done here, but KT, we know that they are committed to finding a team fight. Perfect. Gets himself over. Lehens was waiting for him. Is now Chovy. He's going to get stunned up. Pays is going to fall down, and Perfect goes golden, avoids the Strangle Thorns. The team fight's beautiful. We're trying to ignore the fact that the base is just getting torn to shreds anyway. There's the 1-for-1 in the end, but it's not really a 1-for-1 because Genji just needs to get the busy BDD. He doesn't manage to get Chovy, and Chovy once again doesn't have to flash. It's a double kill for Canyon, and Deft is the last man standing. Frostshot gonna try and slow him down, but we can see those really large red markers, and here we are now. Back into the base as the minions have just spawned, but there are supers here, and this is over. That's the ace for Genji. And KT, they found a couple of fights. That was really cool, but there was just nothing they could do in the end.
A roller coaster of a game. Solar Split can definitely be really, really big contender. At least try and pressure some of the top teams. But after that first game, I do kind of feel strengthened in my... I don't think Genji's going to lose a game today.
No, I don't think so either. I don't know whether they will this season. We'll just have to see. That might be getting ahead of myself. Last time around, this happened, and we'll see whether this happens again. It's Corky Zeri if Genji do want to just run it back. And we'll just see. It might... Maybe they up the priority on the jungle pick this time around. Because this time it may not be KT allowing the ZYRA to go through. But honestly, you lock in Zeri and then you take Leona on 3. I think you're pretty happy about how that one goes. As Supreme, let's see whether he can change things up here in this selection of picks to make a difference.
Pei's also having a swing game, you know, after how his Ezreal games were like, man, he's still here, MSI Pei's, and then this game was like, oh god. He got the one kill at the beginning. That was it.
That's what they needed, though, to be perfectly honest. Like, his work was done.
I mean, it didn't end up mattering. I think that Pei's in that one, especially that final engage, you know, that fight near the Baron pit where you just ran over. He's like, we just need to start the fight. The minions are doing their job. But definitely not his best performance, but it didn't matter. And that's the problem with this Gen G, something we saw in MSI as well. In the finals, it wasn't necessarily about Chovy. It was about the bot lane. It was about Keen. It was about Canyon.
It was about this guy on your screen right here.
Yeah, why not?
Lehens.
No, going to be Cassante, which obviously never going to complain about that. As the Crank!
Okay, Lehens. Back to one of his all-time favorites. This will mean that Beryl is probably not going to pick Seraphine.
No.
They played that matchup into Andil on his Blitzcrank, and that went pretty well for the Kwangdong Freaks, if my memory is right. But so far, even though it may need some fixing, they're still going to pick the same champions. Pantheon being looked at here, of course, one of Beryl's old favorites towards the bottom side.
It's point and click CC.
True.
For Zeri, you don't have a lot of range. Also, playing it into ZYRA doesn't sound
What about Vi support? What about Sejuani support and just put Pyosik on Vi?
At that point, just play Maokai, no?
True. What about Lulu?
I don't love playing Lulu into Blitz.
Yeah, I don't think that doesn't scream this is the answer.
So if you don't get hooked, obviously Lulu can be quite the lane bully, especially with the Ashe. But the gang setup is definitely going to be there. For Keen, no Cassante, no Rumble. That's not something that we're going to be super excited about. I was looking if he wanted to play something like Camille, something that can actually match the Jax. Not going to be the case. It's going to be Udyr. Not very exciting, but Keen playing frontline does make sense. Gen G their comp looks considerably worse than last time. And that's credit to KT for their adaptations in the bans. I think they definitely made the right call in that regard.
I think also the priority pick on the ZYRA did kind of ruin things a bit. Because that allowed the Cassante and Leona bans to actually come in, right?
Yeah, and Canyon, we both know that you can also play Brand and Karthus and Talia.
All right, pretty even spread when it comes to the yelling as Lahens. Oh, I do like it. We had Jonah Strong trying to keep us in the dark there as much as possible. But the hook is not going to connect. B2D just a little bit further away from the brush. But let's see. Let's see whether Deft is once again going to be in exactly the wrong spot, having to blow flash very early on, whether this time around he is going to learn. Because I think it's one thing to pull out the ZYRA and have that performance in game number 1. It would be another thing if KT walk into the same pitfalls again straight away.
There's no way. I still, don't get me wrong, expect KT to fall behind considerably in the early game.
Looks like KT kind of knew what was going on here. Still, they have to blow the heal as Beryl gets the flash off just in time. That rocket grab perfectly placed by Lahens, because you just kill these camps so incredibly fast. As Beryl is going to get hooked, and they hadn't backed. And he's not going to be able to heal. He does manage to get himself the shield, but that is once again first blood. This time, no Canyon required for the secondary portion.
It's the same game.
Yeah, it's the same game. As there's the flash hook, and Deft has he is even more susceptible. Beryl still with 50% of his cooldown remaining on his flash, and so there is a lot for Canyon to get done here as he's looking to start off this dragon.
There's nothing you can do. Realistically, like now Deft doesn't have his flash, meaning that the all-in pressure of this Gen G bot lane going to be way stronger. And Canyon, one of the big weaknesses that I do think you have with the ZYRA is obviously if you fall behind in tempo, I think the pick is really hard to play, right? If you start getting invaded, if you're getting pressured, look at the prio they have in their lanes!
Yeah, and B2D is trying to rotate over as Keen is just wandering through the enemy jungle. What is going on?
Is he gonna, I was about to say, is he, and while, the funniest part of me is that while all of this is happening, Chovy's like, I got my call, I got my tear,
Beryl doesn't have his available, nor does Deft. They do want to be able to kill a minion or two to try and get level 6, as now Pays gonna get turned on. Still, level 5 to level 6 from Pays, but in comes Canyon. There's the flash. Doesn't manage to get too much, but there is the hook from Lahens to lock down the kill for Pays once again. And so doesn't have flash anymore, of course. Used that in the last exchange. See whether he needs it, though, as this big wave is stacking up. And oh, no. The grasping roots will connect for Pyoshik. He'll turn up immediately to get knocked up into the sky. Canyon locks down that first kill, and there's a hook once more. KT, it looked rough in game 1. It is looking absurdly difficult here in game number 2. Oh, man. All right. Lahens, can he find the hook? Will he need to find the hook, I guess, is the question. As Pyoshik is going to flash it, but still has to invest it. And Keen is still doing ridiculous things on the other side of the map. Chovy's Chovy. And Gen G, I mean, this is just a much cleaner version.
Manamune coming for Muramana, slowly getting built towards as well with the tier stacking. And yeah, that's going to come down after Triforce, but that spike, they're not even going to need it. They're 40k gold up again.
He's gonna finish 2 items and he's gonna use it to kill a Nexus. As Lahens misses a hook, so that might be an opportunity here for KT, who have done A damage to a turret here. As now B2D fighting against Chovy, but Canyon, he shows up. Pyoshik in the area. He'll find a Glacial Prison this time. They get the knock-up. Ulti comes through as well. Can they kill Canyon? The answer is yes, as it's the arrow landing from downtown that collects.
So an example of that there is, Pyoshik
gonna face check as Pyoshik does find the Winter's Wrath, and it does absolutely nothing. Chovy just makes it over to the rest of his team. Can he gonna be able to lock down Drake number 2? And once again, it is that Chemtech Soul. You love to see it. Lahens are going to lose patience, and they do so. Chovy moves up towards this turret. Canyon uses his plants in order to save a couple of turret shots from these minions. May not necessarily be needed, but still cool little tech that you can do on the ZYRA. And Deft is just trying to hold on to the minion wave in that mid lane. Keen still being frustrating, and the amount of pressure
First strike, as well as global gold, as well as his
Cull
call.
finished, yep.
Yeah, because he hasn't actually been involved on the map just yet. Herald comes down. GENG, I think they want to avoid what happened in the previous game where they were in this position and then, you know, they had a couple of team fights that didn't really go their way and the game got dragged out. Feels like everyone is playing it a lot cleaner this time.
Indeed. This time Keen able to move in. He's going to play that front line. They managed to get the charge. It was Lehens, and Lehens is going to dive back in again. Use Shelly as a little bit of a speed boost, moving down towards that bottom side. Look at that. Drift King. Clipping through the walls and may just die. But it was very cool drifting, Lehens. Really nicely done.
Look
Love
at his face. Look at his face!
Yeah.
that's the most Lehens moments.
That's the most Rift Herald
That's
moments
your
that we've had.
MSI Finals MVP right there!
Yeah. Lots to do. Vision now going down as this dragon has been started up. Soul Point available for GENG as they teleport in. Chovy looking to make his way over. Pyosik using the walk tactic very nicely, but so's Keen, and his does some damage. Pyosik gonna have to get out of there. Permafrost does come on through. There's the ulti, but Pays just dodges out of the way. And B2D not going to have that for this next fight. Now Lehens moving down, wanting to find that rocket grab. We'll see whether he can get it as flashes abound. And that is another one. The ulti just going to pick it up. Speaking of ultis, Lehens uses his circle as well. The bottom lane is eviscerated, and GENG never even really need to go for too much of a fight because KT were already on the ground.
Lehens has done this on Lulu as well, but the flash ultimate, right?
Yeah.
To guarantee the play.
I like how Pays kills Beryl with the ultimate, which is a circle around him. And then now he's 3,000 gold ahead. Perfect is probably dead here. As does manage to sidestep that one quite nicely, but the knockup still does come through, and Pays gonna lock up his fourth. And that should mean that GENG can just waltz on over to this Baron, pick that one up for themselves, and then use that to empower the minions to take down the enemy base.
There's no winner. Like, eventually someone is either going to overextend in sideline or get caught by a hook.
Yeah.
Right, once you're this far behind, we'll see. KT can maybe get some exit kills, maybe get a Hail Mary team fight.
All right, there's a Glacial Prison as Pyosik tries to find it. The arrow goes entirely wide, though, unfortunately. Redemption is not going to be found in this game as the Extendo Beam is going to force the ultimate out of B2D. He's running away with about 400 health, and Pyosik, he is a bit Owen Wilson, but I just don't think that's going to be the answer here as Keen, he's even going to look for him. Does not want to risk any sort of response. As, Lehens over the wall, Chovy over the wall, and there is the hook. That's going to connect. Chovy's going to lock it up with a rocket. And so there it is. B2D is the only one that is still alive. I mean, perfect that he's on the bottom side of the map with no teleport. It's going to be the Baron secured by against the relatively pure physical composition. Does now have 3 items that have armor in them. One of them being the one with all of the armor in it.
Yeah.
He was already ignoring everything.
Yeah, he's sitting at I saw 290 there.
Yeah.
For his armor. It's a lot of armor, Atlas.
It is quite a bit of armor as Pyosik is going to throw out the sad B. Pretty understandably so as well. As Mega Cone for Pays gets him right towards B2D. I think he's too worried, although B2D can still theoretically catch him as picks the gap there. Does Pyosik, a little bit unfortunate as he manages to part the Red Sea, as it were. And a hook going to be avoided there with an Arctic Assault, but my goodness, the damage is just ridiculous. And they still have more in the tank, right? Canyon still with the Stranglethorns available as there is the Grasping Roots. He throws down that ultimate like I was talking about. And perfect, he has to get Wild Growth, but he's still taking so much damage. The hook is going to be avoided, so he'll be able to make it back to the fountain. But after they get their health bars back, where does the good news start for KT in this game?
There's no good news, Atlas. We both know that.
Yeah, it is.
It's not happening.
It's rocks in hard places, as we do like to talk about here in the LCK. And KT desperately trying to hold on, but it is just not going to work. It's 14,000 gold. Chovy walks at Deft, and Deft could do nothing about it as the rockets rain down. Nexus Turret 1 will fall down. Nexus 2 sure to follow. And GENG just looking for a few extra kills as they melt them on their fountain. The MSI champions just toying with KT here, the only team that's been able to beat them in a best-of series this year, and it did not happen in the first round robin of summer. That's absolutely for sure.